I can't even go anywhere now without the joke of trying to introduce myself and say that, hi, I'm Sandra Grassa, and I'm a lifestyle acupuncturist.
No, it's good. I like it. I like the upbeatness. It's like, wow, that's a little different. Right?
Oh, baloney. The whole thing always gets back to drugs.
Hello, my name is Sandra Grassa, and I'm a licensed acupuncturist. Thank you so much, everyone, for your comments, ideas, suggestions for future vlogs. We are having an amazing time with the serious interviews with the experts, and we can see that you guys are as well. We have had loads of new subscribers. Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone. And the views keep going up. So I can only say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. We're doing this for you. It's a pleasure to keep on spreading the word of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And we now know that it's reaching all over the world. So that is just amazing. So please keep on sending us your feedback. We really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because when awesome videos like this one come live, you will be the first one to know. Now, why am I so excited? Because on the other side of the line is someone who has been, we've been trying to arrange this interview now for near a year now, and it's just, look, schedules, and you think that I'm busy. This woman is super busy, but she's also super phenomenal. So we are going to be talking today to Mary Wong. Mary has been in practice for over 20 years, helping thousands of couples to conceive, and she is the founder of Alive Holistic Health Clinic and was an expert panel advisor to the Canadian government on infertility and adoption. As a TCM practitioner, and actually as a patient who struggled with infertility, she has made it her life's mission to bring about change and improve people's health by bridging that gap between Eastern and Western medicine. She has been speaking and educating fertility clinics about the power of integrative medicine. And if you remember from a few videos before, you've seen her here. She's a regular at the Integrative Fertility Symposium. I hope we get to see her again real soon. You've seen from some of the videos before, registration is now open for the IFS 2018, so go and get that. And because you'll meet super amazing people at that conference. It is the top when it comes to integrative fertility care. So if you want to be where everybody else is, go to the IFS. Culling nearly 200 research studies as well as her personal and professional experiences, she guides women and couples looking to achieve fertility through her book, Pathways to Pregnancy. She has been featured at talks at Google, which I'll leave a link down here and you can go and check it out. But she's also been on Canada's CTV's Your Morning, OM Times, Toronto Star, and Sirius XM, to name but a few. Without any further ado, let's go and talk to the awesome Mary Wong. Mary, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here. Congratulations on your book, first of all. We're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail, but can I just start with something that it really got my eye and my attention. You said in your, as part of, we talked about the book before, and you said that your book gives a different and inclusive perspective to guide women and couples on their fertility journey. I thought that's lovely because, you know, the more support you can get to people, the better. But tell me, what inspired you to write Pathways to Pregnancy?
Well, there are so many reasons why I wrote it. And having been in practice for over 2 decades, one of the most important things is that, you know, we have the privilege of watching people come into our clinics where they're completely devastated and down and out. And then we watch them transform and conceive life. And so, you know, you see the one aspect and then the other, and I thought, wow, you know, there's a huge missing for those that are currently suffering and not having the ability to have hope, because unfortunately, anyone going through it, most of the time they keep silent. And when you're silent, you really feel alone. And it's difficult to have that hope when there's no shared response. And, you know, what do you have? Dr. Google, which sometimes might be a good thing, but by and large, unfortunately, you get a lot of misinformation. And to be honest, even when I was researching, writing my book, unfortunately, like I would then go on those chat lines that people go on, and oh my gosh, they're so devastating, the things that go on there. And I'm thinking, this is really not a good lead, and it just causes more depression. So I really wanted to find a way to reach out to those that are suffering right now and have them have more hope. And also speak in a conversation in a way that others will get it, so that, you know, it's like, here you go, honey, or here you go, mom, read this and you'll kind of get where I'm coming from. Because unfortunately, unless you're in it, most of the time you do not get that kind of support. There's still the stigma. So I want to dispel that stigma and provide a voice for those going through it, and simultaneously adding hope and really practical information that is there for people going through it, where, you know, it's questions and queries that one might have out of fear and too afraid to ask. So it's all inclusive.
But that's why I had that quote, because I remember we talked about this, and I really like that it's different and it's inclusive, and that's part of it. If you were to ask me, what do I think of your book, if I could just put one word, I would actually choose warm. It's almost like you're reading it, and it's so different, because it's not that technical that you would be reading and go, I can't understand that, I need to know about Chinese medicine and acupuncture to read it. But it's not just the stories, and the stories play a big part, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's very, very warm, and it's very, very, it does give you that I don't want to use the word hope again, because I want to ask you something about the hope as well. But it does give you a little bit of a I can read it and go, yeah, I can do this. It's motivational, let's put it that way. So you were able to capture that from the stories from the people that you talk about.
Thank you. And you know, really, this is quite heartfelt for me, and we'll talk about it later, just because I personally had an experience. And so, you know, coming at it from a patient perspective, professional perspective, and then intertwining it with Western medicine. So, and when you say all inclusive, it is that. So, you know, I'm not going to have my ego and say, you know, just do Chinese medicine, or as a Western doctor would say, just do Western medicine. And unfortunately, a lot of the books that are out there, it's kind of like, just do it this way and then you'll get pregnant. Yeah. Well, you know, I don't believe that life is a cookie cutter where, you know, you just have to fit in that square peg. We're all different. We're all unique, and we have our own separate pathways. So there's no one right pathway. And so this is why it's inclusive. And hence, I wrote this.
So talk us through a little bit more about the book and the way, because I have a note here actually to ask you about the chapters and the way, what made you structure. I know you mentioned a little bit about having something personal there too, which I thought it's very brave, and actually it would make me buy the book, because I want to hear from real people. I don't just want to, you know, I don't know the people that are in that story, but if you then start opening up, I think that, yeah, that's a really, really good a good feature to have in your book. It gets me interested in or nosy, you know, it could be one or the other. but there's so many stories. We know that everyone is different, and you know, not everyone's going to relate to those stories. But what made you structure the book the way that you did? Why have it that way? Why have the chapters that way?
So first of all, I've structured it in a way that I want it to be storytelling. Yeah. So it's 15 chapters, and including, it's got 15 stories. And they're all really wide and varied, because that's what it is. People come in with different conditions, different ages, different denominations, and they all have their own story to tell. So, but even though that they have stories that may look a little different, the journey is not all that much different, because the suffering and the trials and tribulations that one goes through is very much similar. And you know, it's part of the core of our humanity that one experiences. It's like it knocks you to your knees with this kind of fertility journey that people go through. So it's important to me to really validate each individual's journeys through the storytelling, and then provide hope in, you know, what they've done. And of course, you know, what the journey is for each individual will slightly differ. And, but it can be one can overcome it anyhow. So despite whatever the diagnosis is, there are pathways, and part of it is being open to shifting gears and allowing yourself to surrender to certain different pathways. And that's what you witness, and that's what you see. And again, adding in about just under 200 research papers to validate certain things that we're also doing, so that you can say, hey, I'm on the right track, without overwhelming yourself.
Because then it becomes giving that practical advice to the person reading the book, and practical that they can actually go and put together and do it for themselves and feel great about doing something for themselves, which then we can then talk about hope, huh? But it is true. Like, it was one of the things that I remember getting the book for the first time, and I'm a big nerd, so I read the whole thing.
Here's the book.
Yeah. So I always like to read the whole thing, and just making sure, like, even those pages everyone skips at the start and the end, I always like to get the real feel for the book. And I know that it's the foreword, that it's by Randine Lewis. Like, yes. Everybody knows the amazing Randine Lewis. And one of the first words that she uses on the foreword to your own book is the word hope. Okay, now it touched, because it was just the first thing that I was reading, and I was like, it just came to me, like, one of our professors used to say that hope is the beginning of healing.
Yes.
And it stays with you and all that. So talk to me. If you have someone watching this now, and because they know you or your work, and they want to know more, they want to know that pathway to pregnancy, what message would you give them? What do you want them to get? What do you want them to know first? What hope do you want them to have?
Well, the very first thing is that oftentimes you come in already with some kind of a diagnosis, and it typically can be very bleak. For example, advanced maternal age. That's not even like a really true diagnosis, and it really doesn't mean much, right? But how you hear is like, oh boy, I'm a geriatric, and I'm going to have old eggs, and I will not be able to get pregnant. And really, what I always say is, and my advice is, that these words, or the diagnosis that you get, it's a starting point. It's not a finality. It's not a prison sentence or a death sentence, if you will, because we are dynamically changing. We are capable of healing. And there's a lot of things that one can do. And, when you're given these diagnoses, unfortunately, it is bleak, and you typically think that it is hopeless, right? Like, it's like, there's nothing I can do to help it. Mm-hmm. So what I say is that, well, there are things. If this is just a starting point, if your FSH is high, if your anti-Müllerian hormone is low, if you're, I've actually, last week I had a lady that came in and said, oh, my doctors told me my ovaries are small. And so, then when you hear these things, you automatically go into the, oh my gosh, this is impossible. But yet, we have to realize that Western medicine is pathology based. So they're always looking at what's wrong, and let's see what we can fix, right? So what we want to do is we look at it in a new light and say, well, why is that? Why is my body behaving in such a way that is not being my enemy? In fact, I would actually say that perhaps it's working in a protective mode, having us just say, no, not right now. And how can we encourage our bodies, our mind, and our spirit to be in a more receptible place, to be able to receive life? And you mentioned Randine Lewis earlier, and one thing that I loved, that I learned, and that I have always taken away, was that she described this journey as, foremost, like a treacherous journey climbing up that mountain, right? And really, we need to, and I invite you, those of you who are watching and struggling with fertility challenges, it's like, I invite you to revisit your journey and say, wow, how can I be the valley and allow myself to be receptive? Because really, this journey should not be a struggle. It's like, how can we create more life in our lives? What I always say, it's like, how can we mother ourselves so that we can be able to become mothers? Because it starts with us. So the advice is, there are things that we can do. We don't have to lose hope.
Mm.
And so, what can that be, right? So one would be preconception health. So that would include things like dietary changes, lifestyle changes, and attitudes. And, when I ask you, like, how much life do you have in your life right now? Unfortunately, I would say 9 out of 10 of my patients, probably yours the same, where they come in and it's like they're like the Walking Dead to an extreme, all right? So not quite like that, but certainly they're like, I don't even recognize myself anymore. I've been struggling. I'm not happy. So if you look at that and rate yourself honestly, on a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is I am like, woohoo! I am like vibrant. I'm like raring to go. And then the opposite, where 0 is like, I can't get out of bed. You might as well just shoot me. Hopefully you're not there. But it's like wherever you're at, let's say you're at a 3. How can we get you like 1 notch higher? What can it take? What can it be today? And just that one little thing, perhaps that can give us that light of life and has that our body and our mind and our spirit to be that much more receptive. Because in the scientific world now, we hear about epigenetics. So epigenetics is about the ability for our bodies, our mind, and our spirit. So even what we think and feel emotionally, we see that it can impact us right down to our cellular level and how we manifest and turn genes on and off. And that impacts our generation now, and it impacts our future generation.
Yeah.
So if you're at sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No. I was just, you mentioned the word epigenetics, and one person comes to mind. I think who I'm going to say next, but I was listening to Paul Magarelli's lecture, one of the IFS lectures, and he mentioned something was a healthy body is a fertile body.
Right.
And I like these to kind of say to patients as well and everything. And I think that's just what you were saying there about a lot of the times what I find really frustrating as a male, and I'm going to talk now as a practitioner, but actually as a male, is that I will never know exactly what it is to go through a pregnancy. I can only hear and read about the stories and how wonderful it is. But it actually makes me, as a male and as a practitioner, makes me sad that a lot of the people that I end up seeing in the clinic, because it's so strenuous that trying to get pregnant, they get the pregnancy quite tired. And I'm always afraid that they're not going to enjoy it as much.
Yes.
And I'm there like, I'm a male. I will never enjoy pregnancy as it is. I want you to. I want you to be able to enjoy it. And a lot of the times I see that, and I try to get people in my clinic to just say, this is one step, and then there's more. But getting healthy would be the first goal.
Yes, and I would actually add to that. I'll piggyback on that when you say healthy body. Let's say healthy body, mind, and spirit, because it really is that, right? So I always put things on a continuum. And then, of course, in Chinese medicine, we do acknowledge this, right? So I don't have a pen. Oh, I do have a pen. So, I always use like a little balance, right? So if this is the mental, emotional, and this is the body physically. So sure, okay, fine. You eat organic and you do all the right things, and you're like doing yoga, you're meditating, and you are like going to a clairvoyant, you're getting colonics, you're going to Chinese medicine, you're going to your fertility doctor. So get what I'm saying? It can get overwhelming to do all those healthy things. Because so what happens is then in that case, like all of a sudden the emotional spiritual piece gets off balance. So, it's not more of doing. And in fact, one of the things that you probably always get is, what more can I do? What more can I be doing to get myself pregnant, right? And my automatic go-to is, well, I have a feeling that you're probably doing a lot, right? And I'm not going to say clear across the board, because there are some people that we just totally need to overhaul their diets. But for the most part, by and large, a lot of people that go through fertility and for, a year or two, they are totally cleaning up everything to the nth degree, to where I see that they're in a way that they're doing it, they're imbalanced because there's no joy anymore. Right? So it's like, okay, it's not about doing everything 100%. And guess what? Thankfully, we don't have to be perfect to create a pregnancy to turn, a healthy baby to turn. thankfully. So it's like and that's why I mentioned earlier, it's like, how do we get it up a notch? That, because if you're like this and, you're doing all the right things and you're emotionally and spiritual, like down here, how can we just improve it a notch?
Mm-hmm.
So for some, and I'll speak for myself, for me, I'm going to admit it, I like dark chocolate. Okay? I do. I don't eat it every day. And when I do, it's like, I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm not going to make myself feel bad or wrong. And in fact, for those of you watching, that's in fact, stop that judgment. That self-judgment of saying, I am being good because I'm doing this, or I am being bad because I'm like having that chocolate ice cream. So for me, it's like, have that healthy piece of chocolate. And I'm not saying this like giant bar, but like, if I'm going to do that, I'll take a little chunk and I will like savor it. I will eat it up and I will like close my eyes and make it meditative and like orgasmic, so that it becomes, in fact, a ritual that can be healing, right?
I'm so glad you mentioned that. So only just to put this in context, only a few weeks ago, I realized that patients in the clinic actually go and watch the interviews with the experts like this one. I thought that, you go on YouTube and you follow the channel, you go, oh, that doesn't really interest me. I want the stuff with advice and whatever. But someone mentioned, no, we do actually watch that. And I'm so delighted you said that about the chocolate, because if anyone is watching this that has ever been to any of my clinics, they will know that as Sandra's chocolate cake theory. Okay? Now, hang on. I'm okay with chocolate, kind of hit and miss. But if it's the chocolate cake, that's a different story. Okay? So I always say to everyone, look, this is Sandra's chocolate cake theory, is that you're looking at that slice of cake. You know that it's probably too big and you shouldn't be doing it. And what time, can I really be eating all that much? It's fine. You know what? Go and have it and enjoy it. Because at the end of the day, you're probably going to still have it anyway. You'll feel that, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. And you're going to do it, but you won't enjoy it. And then you'll go and have another one because you didn't enjoy the first one.
That's right. So true. Yeah.
So I'd say just enjoy the first one. Don't beat yourself up because of it. You're going to have it. You like doing it. Just be careful. Don't do it all the time. Just, be in control. Be sure of what you're doing, but just do it once and enjoy it. And just like what you were saying, just make sure that that's the last chocolate cake that you're going to have for the week or the month or whatever. Just really enjoy it and do it. There's too much of a good thing is bad. Not doing anything is just going to leave you too tense. So just go for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what I want to add is, so, I don't want people to do things that they regret, right? So unfortunately, some people will literally, I have had patients, and you probably have too, where they'll say, oh my gosh, I had that piece of chocolate cake. Do you think that's why I didn't get pregnant?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it happens.
Yeah.
So then it's actually about reevaluating. Yeah. And so I always put it back to you, the viewer. If you have this piece of chocolate cake, are you going to blame yourself? So, and in fact, like the other day, I have a patient who's currently pregnant and says, how much exercise should I have? And I said, you know what, you're a really fit woman. And first trimester, really, what you want to do is not just follow the rules. It's listen to your body. If you're tired, don't force yourself. Okay. And really, if you're tired, you're like doing a marathon a day anyway in trying to build up the highway for, creating the placenta and increasing blood volume to your uterus. Like, there's tangible stuff. It's literally like doing a marathon. So it's not really time to like go crazy and do exercise. And, for those who have had multiple recurrent pregnancy loss, then of course, you're even that much more hypersensitive to, what you do. Mm-hmm. So I always place the question back and say, if you go for whatever you're doing, this exercise, like if you're going to do weights, if a spontaneous demise actually happens, are you going to blame it on that? Yeah. And if you do, then you've answered your question. Mm. Right? So I don't think us as practitioners should also bear the weight, right? Mm.
Yeah. So basically you're saying one slice of chocolate cake is okay. That's what we can take from this conversation, yeah?
Totally. So, I go and yeah, that was a really long-winded way of saying that.
Yeah, just one square or one, yeah, that's okay.
I always say, like, I follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time or 90% of the time, depending on the person, you follow it, the healthy eating lifestyle, and then, have yourself some leeway to have your chocolate cake.
Mm.
In my case, dark chocolate.
Oh, baloney. The whole thing always gets back to drugs.